Hey, what's up, Nick?
What's going on, brother? How you doing?
Ooh, another day, another episode of the Barnhill Brothers Show.
That's right. That's right.
How you doing
Welcome
today?
back, everybody.
Yes, it's good to have you guys all back. We're getting back in the swing of this thing on a weekly basis, and it feels good.
Absolutely. I'm great. Just nice Sunday here at the house. It rained a little this morning, but other than that, it's been a nice day.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm still reeling off some really exciting fights last night.
Not bad for a free card, huh?
Seriously, it was excellent.
Man.
And just how good is the 125 division? I mean, who said the 125 division was going anywhere? Come on now. It's one of the most exciting divisions in the sport now, right?
Yeah, we have to thank Triple C for saving the division because if it would have been washed away, then we wouldn't have gotten the amazing fight we got last night, and not just the main event.
Two amazing fights in 25.
Yeah, the curtain jerker for the main event.
Absolutely. Well, let's start off with the main event. I mean, my goodness, how tough is Joseph Benavidez? He's a true warrior. I hated to see him go out like that, but man, oh man, is he ever a legend of the sport?
He such a legend. So, if you could place a bet on if Joseph Benavidez does get in a submission hold, will he tap or not? I had a feeling he wouldn't tap because the guy's just as tough as nails, and he knew going into this, just like everybody, that this was his last title shot, really. And it's sad to say that because I feel like he could earn his way back to another one, but you know how the UFC works. Technically, the last fight against Figueiredo was the last title shot, but since there was some issues with making weight and they were trying to
with the weight and all
that,
yeah,
the vacant title, they had to give him another shot. But I feel so bad.
And I think rightfully so. Even though it didn't go his way and he was dominated the entire time, I still do think he was the right person to be in there for that shot.
And I think it's very clear who the number one 125er on the planet is.
We've got a scary guy at 25.
Yeah.
And I mean, the narrative about 25 always was, how skilled are these guys? How good of a gas tank do these guys have? How technical are these guys? We've got a new narrative. How heavy are these guys' hands? My goodness, Figueiredo looks like a knockout artist.
He is.
That would be a feared, opponent in any weight class.
For sure. He came in much lighter for this fight. At his last fight, they said once he didn't make the weight and came back, he entered the cage over 145. So he's a big 25er, but they said this time he didn't quite. He was somewhere in the 140, a little bit less range when he stepped into the cage. And people thought the strength difference in the first fight was what maybe gave him the advantage, but I don't think he lost any strength in that weight.
No, I mean, and Benavidez is known for his grappling, and his jiu-jitsu is phenomenal. Mm-hmm. And he fighting out of those multiple rear naked choke attacks from the back were incredible. But the Figueiredo he's good everywhere. He's good on the ground. He's a great grappler. He's a feared striker. And when you think about what you just said, how his weight he was 20 pounds heavier than his weigh-in weight the day of. People hear that and they say, oh, well, I know of fighters that gain 20 pounds and replenish 20 pounds day of. But I think the important thing to remember there is that you have to do it by percentage, right?
Right.
So it's one thing for John Jones to weigh in at 205 and then fight at 225. If you did the calculation on what percentage of his body weight that actually is, it doesn't make as much of a difference.
Yeah.
Exactly. Now factor in what 25 or what 20 pounds means to somebody who weighed in at 125 pounds.
Right.
You're getting close to that 20+%.
Right.
So I think that he was pushing the limits on the threshold of how much you can cut for that weight class. But he, like a true champ that he now is, he seemed to recognize the problem, address it, and win the belt.
Yeah, I mean, he's clearly the most feared man in that division, and I think, I think there's a lot of good fights down there, and I'm so excited for the 125ers because, those guys are quick. Their gas tanks are endless, and they're just as skilled as everybody else. But, there hasn't been a ton of hype around that division for a while. I think what we might see is another long reign at the 125 belt holding, situation because there's some great fights down there. But I think he's the clear number one. Yeah, absolutely.
And I mean, the 25 division is shaping up to be extremely exciting right now.
For sure.
We have Askarov. That was an incredible fight that he had last night against
Pantoja,
Alexandre Pantoja. I mean, but
both of those guys looked so promising, and put on one of the most entertaining fights. All the fights last night were incredibly entertaining. It was either insane wars like the DeCasey versus Fiziev fight, or it was quick submissions or quick finishes.
I'm calling it the night of the leg lock.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. Leg lock.
Gordon Ryan would be proud of last night's outcomes.
From Lipsky's knee bar, which was absolutely awesome. She kind of looked like a female Zabit in there.
Yeah, that was incredible.
To Jack Hermansson, everybody. And then Figueiredo kind of just put the cherry on top.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of Jack Hermansson, let's get into the co-main. First question I have for you out of the gate is just how good is Jack Hermansson? And are we going to be seeing him fighting for a belt at 185 within the next year from now?
If everything goes according to his plan and what I think could happen, yes. I think there's a little bit of a log jam up in that division right now because you've got so many guys. And, he's number 6 as of yesterday. I'm sure he'll move up a little bit, but he's not going to take Gastelum's spot because Gastelum was 7. So it's kind of hard to move forward in a division like that. But I think once we see, and one thing I love that he did, people talk about it all the time, is everybody back in the day would call out Conor McGregor. He wasn't even in some of these people's weight classes. They would call him out, and it made him look weak because they would call somebody out that they're never going to get the fight with,
right?
Especially not next. And then you don't get it, and it makes it's not a good look. He could have called out the winner of Izzy and Paulo Costa and waited and looked weak just like everybody else and not
probably gotten that fight.
Or
maybe not.
I don't think so. I don't think he would have gotten it after that because he did lose his last fight to Cannonier, and then they bring him back with Gastelum, and Gastelum's an absolute monster. Went the distance with Izzy and all of that, but I think the smart move for him to do, which was very, very calculated on his part, was say, next week, and we've got a great fight at 185 between Robert Whittaker and Darren Till. I want the winner of that because both of those guys are sitting a little bit above him.
Right.
And with a win over one of them, he's guaranteed a title shot.
And quite frankly, who's calling out Robert Whittaker or Darren Till besides Jack Hermansson?
Yeah. And if I'm being honest, after seeing him, and the past few times, obviously he lost to Cannonier, but he just seems like such a nightmare. You watch him fight, and his intensity is, all UFC fighters for the most part are intense humans.
Right.
This guy is another level compared to all the UFC fighters. You see him in there, and it just appears that he's light years stronger than all of these guys, and intense and mean. And I think he's
You hit the nail right on the head when you said that Jack Hermansson is the type of person that you avoid on the mats in jiu-jitsu class. He's the kind of guy that has one speed. He just goes ham whenever it's time to grapple.
Absolutely. His grip strength is probably out of this world.
God forbid you should be his sparring partner or catch him in a Muay Thai class across from you. I didn't bet on fights. I like to bet, but I didn't do it last night. And I think I would have made some money last night because Kelvin is a monster, one of the greatest in the world. But he seems to be a bit of a slow starter, and sometimes I question his ferociousness, especially in the beginning. Obviously, fighters will bring the dog out in him, right?
But sometimes you got to shake those cobwebs off. And Jack Hermansson's not the guy to do that with. You don't want to go a long time with him because he's just aggressive and he comes out on fire.
I think he's a nightmare for anybody at the 185 division. I thought he was a 205er for some reason. There's certain people in certain weight classes that for some reason, just in the back of my head, I even know that I'm wrong, but I think, I thought he was a 205er.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it's because he looks like a 205er. He's strong. He's big. He's long, but my goodness, at 185, he poses a threat to anybody, I think, including the two that are going for the strap next, Izzy and Paulo Costa.
Yeah. I would love to see those matchups. I'm interested in seeing if he gets the Till or Whittaker fight. I would assume
I don't see why they wouldn't give him that.
I would assume that was not biting off more than he can chew. I think Dana will see that he deserves that shot, and he's going to get it. So congratulations to Hermansson.
Yeah, man. Jack, man, he's
must see TV now. You know, when
He
when I
is.
see him on a card, I get jazzed up.
Yeah, I do too. And and with Gastelum, I mean, I felt so bad for Gastelum. He put out a long post on social media that, he felt embarrassed and all that. And as well as anybody that sometimes you just get caught with something.
Right.
And it's not to say that Gastelum's not still one of the best fighters in the world, that he still doesn't have a path to getting back to the title or a title shot rather. But I think it's going to be, he set himself up for a difficult road ahead now, because you have, like you said, Till and Whitaker in the wings, and you've got Hermansson now establishing himself. Where do you see Kelvin Gastelum going from here?
It's hard to say. With a loss, usually you find somebody else with a loss, and there's a lot of good options around there. Uriah Hall and Yoel Romero are slated to fight, and I think you could throw him in there with the loser of that.
Yeah.
Whoever that is, it's a tough night out for everybody involved. But I wouldn't mind seeing him versus Yoel Romero, or him versus Uriah Hall. That's the whole thing about that division is there's a lot of guys who are winning fights and losing fights and winning fights and losing fights, but it doesn't diminish their value too much. Romero's coming off some wins and losses. Uriah Hall thinks that if he can beat Romero, he deserves a title shot. I can't say that he's wrong at thinking that.
Right.
Darren Till, he comes out and if he beats Robert Whitaker, it's hard to say that he doesn't deserve. And then same thing goes for Robert Whitaker. If he beats Darren Till, who says he doesn't get a rematch?
Sure, or even like a Wonderboy Thompson with his crisp striking and Gastelum's tenacity and good boxing. I don't think that would end in a submission loss, obviously, how this last one did for him. So I think that could be a great striking matchup. That would be awesome. Would be fun to see.
And to be honest, one of the moves I would love to see in MMA is Wonderboy up at 185 and fighting, more importantly, Izzy Adesanya.
Yeah.
I think that would just be the coolest striking match that we could see.
Styles
right
make
now.
matchups, and that would be probably the highest level striking chess match that you could make right now in that division.
And with all due respect, I love Wonderboy Thompson. I want to see him with a UFC strap at some point in his career. I don't know if that comes at 170. It's crazy to say, but I think his road to a belt is easier at 185 than 170, because when you look at Colby and Usman and Woodley and all these guys, they're sitting there. They're heavy wrestlers. Not to say they aren't heavy wrestlers at 185, but 170, he's kind of been through it with all those guys, and it's a tough night out for him, and his style fits better at 170 or 185 to compete.
I totally agree. Yeah, it really is the styles make matchups thing. It's not to say that Israel Adesanya is not just as good or every bit the fighter that Kamaru Usman is. It's just if you were to put Wonderboy Thompson in for a title shot at 170 or 185, even though he's more of a slender guy and can make 170 pretty easily, I think his chances at 185 would be higher because of the nature of the type of fight that it would be.
For sure. Either way, love the guy. He's the nicest guy in the world.
He is.
So
I mean, I'm telling you, beat you up on Saturday and teach kids karate on Sunday.
Yeah.
You can't beat Wonderboy.
You can't beat him. Well, there was some excitement in the 55 division. Talk about some new blood, and I would say a scary new I would say a new nightmare that we didn't really know about at 155 in Fiziev.
Man, I said this before, and I'll say it again. Yeah, fight of the night.
They got fight of the night bonus, as they should have.
Absolutely, no question about it. And Jacasey is every bit the game competitor. I mean, his whole strategy is usually, try to knock you out, get in your face, beat you up.
As elite of a striker as you will find in the UFC.
And Fiziev absolutely put him in the matrix. I mean, I am talking about literally some of the most high-level Muay Thai that I've seen in MMA in quite some time. That lean back, that was something Israel Adesanya could have only dreamed of, and he's touted as the best striker in MMA right now. So,
yeah, when it comes to Muay Thai, I don't think there's anybody in the UFC that touches Fiziev. I think
no,
there's a reason all fighters venture their way out to Thailand and train out there with the Thai boxers and all them. And there's a reason Fiziev is the coach down there.
Exactly. And I'll say it again.
Teaching these guys.
It's crazy. I'll say it again. Tiger Muay Thai is maybe not so quietly, but slowly becoming one of the top MMA camps to go to. I mean, you're talking about the highest of the high-level strikers, Valentina the Bullet Shevchenko, now Peter Yan, who just dominated Aldo, a legend of the sport. Fiziev, he's the freaking coach there. Yeah. I mean, what more can you? Excellent strength and conditioning, excellent grappling now. They are churning out a stable of fighters that are scary right now. So
and the blueprint for beating somebody like a Mark Ducasse is generally take him to the ground, hold him there so he can't get off on you with some of these shots and these crazy kicks that he does.
Wear him out.
He beat Ducasse at his own game, and he didn't make him look foolish, but he clearly won every minute of that fight, I would say.
Yeah.
And just he's like a juggernaut. He just kept coming forward, and I think part of it has to do with the no crowd being in there and it being so quiet and intimate. But those were the loudest kicks I've ever heard landed in MMA.
He's a problem. And, he was also a combat Sambo champion. So that tells me that his grappling is very good.
Right.
If Khabib tells us anything about Sambo, if you're a Sambo champion, you can grapple. But, so he's a major problem for everybody at 155 because somebody that can strike that well, that also has a good grappling pedigree, my goodness, I don't know. Who would you even recommend that he go up against next?
I think for the safety of others, don't feed him people. Don't give him the slow route send him to the wolves because he's in there with the elite of the elite strikers in the world. And he's their coach. And that's kind of, if you're around gyms, you understand that, like, there's this style and this rhythm that coaches will get into when they're sparring with you.
Yeah.
That is, you see it, and they're obviously toying with you a little bit, and they're having fun. That's what he looked like he was doing in there. He looked like he didn't look like a scared, nervous fighter at all. He looked so fluid and moved so well, and like he was just having the time of his life in there. Obviously, he's got 200 amateur kickboxing matches, so he's comfortable in the ring. But when the bright lights are on, it's always different. He looked like he was in there training one of his athletes.
I'll almost compare that to how Michael Chiesa was with Diego Sanchez, but with grappling.
Yeah.
Like he literally was just like flow rolling, it almost seemed, just easily picking him apart at every angle and almost could have finished him, but didn't, because he wanted to toy with him. That was almost what it looked like.
Right.
Like it was just like, I am such a higher level striker than you, and I'm going to put on a clinic for everybody tonight. So I know he doesn't have a whole lot of MMA fights under his belt, but don't let that record fool you. And I agree, he needs a big jump up from here.
Yeah.
He needs a top 10 or top 15 guy.
And everybody better have taken notes that's in the top 10 of 155 because he's coming, and I think he's on a fast track to a title shot or at least a contender's placement.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And just like Jack Hermansson, he for me is now must watch TV.
Oh, absolutely.
I will not miss his fights.
No way.
And one last thing on him, he's clearly, one of the toughest guys that we've seen in the 155 division in a while because Ducasse threw everything but the kitchen sink at him, and he kind of took everything and rolled with everything. And then also on that same note, Mark Ducasse, it might be one of the toughest guys in the division as well for taking all those body kicks that he landed. Literally, if you didn't listen to these kicks, if you watched the fight at a bar and the volume wasn't on, go back and watch those because they sound like somebody's chopping a tree down or something.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's insane.
Yeah, and also to your point, his chin held up really well too because he did outclass Ducasse, but that's not to say that Ducasse didn't land a few really good strikes. He did.
Lots.
And, Fiziev responded extremely well. So shout out to him, and I won't miss him again.
Yeah, thank you guys for the awesome fight. Well-deserved bonuses for the fight of the night.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And how about the other half of the leg locking extravaganza that happened last night with Lipsky? She's going to be fun to watch. There was a lot of good promising fighters that I think we're going to really enjoy watching for the next couple of years that fought last night.
Yeah.
And she's one of them.
And I didn't know a whole lot about her. Ariane Lipski.
Yeah.
The Queen of Violence is her name.
The queen of leg locks last night.
And to be honest, to finish somebody with an aggressive knee bar like that is it shows you that the name is fitting for her, because she came in, cracked her a couple of times, and then dropped her with a body shot.
Yeah.
She threw a hard 2, I believe it was, right to the body, dropped her, and then her competitor or her opponent, I can't think of her name, moved right into a leg lock transition. And usually when you see that happen, it's a little bit troubling, especially in the beginning of the first round where nobody's sweaty, so people can really get good grips on others. But she turned, she knew what she was doing clearly, and the kind of caught her opponent off guard, because when you're sitting behind somebody, usually when you are in a leg lock position and then they turn and you're turning facing the other way, it's not good for you. But
I thought she was in danger for a minute.
She sat down, and then I see her pulling this leg, and I'm like, I don't really know what she's going for. As soon as I see her separate that leg, and you could see her opponent was holding for dear life with her other foot. As soon as she pulled it across, I go, oh, God, this is about to get painful, because I know how knee injuries work. And that girl screamed at the top of her lungs, and she sat back. And usually it's like the same thing, same mechanic as an arm bar. Once you get the arm is like this, right? So once you get it like this, then you extend, and that's where the leg was like this. But the worst part for her opponent than an armbar is usually on armbar you're on the ground, so there's only so far you can go. Right. You can raise your hips up a little bit, but there's only so far you can go. This girl had nothing behind her, so she just pulled,
and all of her weight on top.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. There's only one direction that the knee hinges.
Yeah.
And if you hinge it the other way, you get a disaster like what happened.
Trust me.
So normally I would say that the Queen of Violence has got to get a knockout. But I think, in order to live up to her name, however, I think that a knee bar where your opponent screams in agony allows you to keep the name intact.
I think that's equally violent as some people's knockouts. So shout out to her. I think the UFC can do some fun stuff with her.
Yeah, she's going to be good. She has the right personality, the right look, obviously.
Great looking girl, yeah.
She's got a great, fighting style. She's exciting. Mm-hmm. We saw a lot of, lighter weight class people going for the finish yesterday, which I loved.
Yeah. I mean, that 125 men's fight at the beginning of the prelim, or the beginning of the main card.
Right.
Pantoja and Askarov.
Yeah.
Am I saying that right?
Askarov, I believe is his name. Yeah. And to be quite honest, I knew a little bit about each of the guys going into the fight, but not much. And quite frankly, I think even though Askarov got the nod, that we could see either one or both of those guys potentially fighting for a title at 125 within the next 18 months.
It might need to be next.
Yeah, I think Askarov is definitely next. Yeah. But then I think Pantoja, he's right there in the wings. That was certainly, his stock didn't go down at all. Both of them are exciting, and both of them were
so exciting.
Yeah, that's, talk about the grappling. How about that? Even though Pantoja lost, one of the highlight moments, maybe the best moments of the fight to me, was that back take in the first round. He literally, that was some slick stuff.
If you want to see high level grappling in mixed martial arts, watch the first round of that fight.
Yeah.
All the rounds were great, but the grappling exchanges in that first round were insane, and he largely controlled all of them. And I would say in my book, he definitely won that round.
Yes,
and,
I think it was 2 rounds. I think they got it right. I think it was Askarov 2 rounds to 1.
And Askarov, tough as nails, was able to land the right strikes and implement his more of a wrestling style grappling.
Is he a Dagestan?
Yeah. Undefeated.
Gosh, those guys from Dagestan,
tough as nails. And
you don't want to fight those guys.
No, you definitely don't. And that would be kind of cool to see Dagestan champions. I would venture to say that Zabit is on his way to eventually becoming a champion. Yeah. We might have a roster full of Russians. Pyotr Yan, I know he's not Dagestan, but he 135, Askarov at 125, Zabit at 45, Khabib obviously at 55.
Well, presumably Askarov's got a tough test in front of him next, because who wants to fight Figueiredo after last night?
Yeah, I
Askarov probably does, but it's going to be a tough night out for anybody that gets across from him. And I'm loving 125, and I don't want to take anything away from Triple C or from Demetrius Johnson, who largely built that division, dominated that division, but I am loving the excitement and the fights that are taking place in the men's 125 division right now.
Me too. It feels like it's been given a resurgence, kind of.
Yeah.
And all it takes is a few fights like the ones we saw last night to bring some more eyes and more attention to it. You know, you get exciting fights like that. People don't care about the weight. Obviously, heavier guys generally over history have been more intriguing for the masses, but who's to say that, you know, you see a few more fights between guys like that? You know, you got your Brandon Morenos, you got your, you know, obviously Joseph Benavidez. He deserves to be right there at the top of the heap still. Those type of guys, you put them in there with each other, you're going to get these exciting fights, and I think they're bringing a new life into the 25 division.
Absolutely. And quite honestly, did any of those guys look like they weighed 125 pounds?
No.
If we didn't put those statistics up and we just said these guys weigh 150 pounds, the casual fans be like, man, these guys are knockout art. Like, you know what I mean? I think it's the connotation that, oh, these guys are little guys, you know, but yeah, they're not so little, and you definitely their shots for sure are not little.
Yeah, no, they're all monsters, all the way down to the smallest guys on the roster and the smallest girls for that matter. But I think they're going to get some new respect that they deserve, and I think, you know, people, if they keep churning out fights like they've turned out last night, then we're definitely going to see just some more eyes and more attention down at the 125 division.
Absolutely. Well, guys, thanks again for tuning in to another episode of the Barnhill Brothers.
Thank you so much.
Fight Island is certainly shaping up to be all we had expected and more.
Absolutely.
We got one more card left there with an incredible main event, Till and Whitaker. So we'll be back to recap that one for you guys. In the meantime, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on the podcast app, whichever one you happen to listen to. Yes. And we'll be back next time, guys.
Yes, thank you so much. And leave that 5-star review on the podcast app. We're new over there, and all the ratings that we can get would really, really help us.
We appreciate it.
Same thing with the comments, like, subscribes on YouTube. Don't forget it. Have a great rest of your weekend. Take care.
Bye, guys.